Hermione Granger and the Chamber of Secrets. Chapter 12. The Polyjuice Potion. When Hermione finally emerged from her room, she found out the full story. Harry had gone to find Justin to apologize for any misunderstandings during the dueling club, but instead was the one who found him petrified. Floating next to him was Sir Nicholas, also petrified. Found, once again, at the scene of the crime, Harry was, once again, accused, and Professor McGonagall took him to Dumbledore's office. Dumbledore apparently didn't suspect Harry, but was adamant Harry knew something about the attacks. I keep thinking about Malfoy saying, "You'll be next, mudbloods," and that voice I keep hearing, but I kept my mouth shut. Harry said, "We don't know enough yet. Maybe after the Polyjuice Potion." Hermione kind of wished Harry had told Dumbledore everything, including their plan with the Polyjuice Potion, even if it got her in trouble for stealing from Snape. She was afraid time was running out, but Harry had not, and the Polyjuice was the only hope Hermione allowed herself to have to figure everything out. Hermione wasn't the only person feeling the stress of the Chamber of Secrets. The double attack on Justin and nearly Hidden Snake turned what had hitherto been nervousness into a real panic. There was almost a stampede to book seats on the Hogwarts Express so that students could go home for Christmas. Curiously, it was nearly Headless Snake's fate that seemed to worry people most. What could possibly do that to a ghost? People asked each other. What terrible power could harm someone who was already dead? Hermione likewise find it quite particular. She believed Sir Nicholas was a giant clue to the whole puzzle, but she couldn't figure out where it fit. Hermione forced herself to believe that it would all come together after they took the Polyjuice Potion. "At this rate, we'll be the only ones left," Ron told Harry and Hermione as they watched the line of students file past them to sign up to go home. "Us, Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle. What a jolly holiday it's going to be." Crabbe and Goyle, who always did whatever Malfoy did, had signed up to stay over the holidays too. Harry was constantly being harassed in the corridors, people muttering, pointing, and hissing as he passed. Fred and George, however, found all of this very funny. They went out of their way to march ahead of Harry down the corridors shouting, "Make way for the heir of Slytherin! Seriously evil wizard coming through!" And Percy was deeply disapproving of this behavior. "It is not a laughing matter," he said coldly. "Oh, get out of the way, Percy," said Fred. "Harry's in a hurry." "Yes, he's off to the Chamber of Secrets for a cup of tea with his fanged servant," said George, chortling. Ginny didn't find it amusing either. Hermione hadn't told anyone about their encounter on the steps. It still hurt too much. "Oh, don't," she wailed every time Fred asked Harry loudly who he was planning to attack next, or when George pretended to ward Harry off with a large clove of garlic when they met. Their antics seemed to be aggravating Draco Malfoy, who looked increasingly sour each time he saw them at it. "It's because he's bursting to say it's really him," said Ron knowingly. "You know how he hates anyone beating him at anything, and you're getting all the credit for his dirty work." "Well, not for long," said Hermione in a satisfied tone. "The Polyjuice Potion's nearly ready. We'll be getting the truth out of him any day now." At last, the term ended, and a silence deep as the snow on the grounds descending on the castle. With most of the students home for the Christmas holidays, Hermione, Harry, and the Weasleys had a run of Gryffindor Tower. Fred, George, and Ginny had chosen to stay at school rather than visit Bill in Egypt with Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. Instead of a calm, quiet, with a lack of students, The Weasleys decided it was a great time to play Exploding Snap loudly without bothering anyone and practicing dueling in private. Percy, who disapproved of what he termed their childish behavior, didn't spend much time in the Gryffindor common room. He had already told them pompously that he was only staying over Christmas because it was his duty as a prefect to support the teachers during this troubled time. Hermione secretly agreed with him, but didn't say anything. Christmas morning dawned cold and white. Instead of being warm and cozy in her bed, Hermione was already in the bathroom tending to the potion. All of her roommates had gone home for the holiday, and Hermione found their absence disconcerting. Every noise was Slytherin's monster coming to get her. It was, quite frankly, more relaxing to be in a dank bathroom than the Gryffindor dormitories at this point. However, around 7 in the morning, Hermione found herself racing back to the dorms. She burst into Harry and Ron's room, carrying presents for them both. The gifts weren't much, but Hermione was hoping to take advantage of the traditions of Christmas to help her get her mind off things. Wake up, she said loudly, pulling back the curtains at the window. Hermione, you're not supposed to be in here, said Ron, shielding his eyes against the light. Merry Christmas to you too, said Hermione, throwing him his present. I've been up for nearly an hour, adding more lace wings to the potion. It's ready. Harry sat up suddenly wide awake. Are you sure? Positive, said Hermione, shirting Scabbers the rat so that she could sit down at the end of Ron's four-poster. If we're going to do it, I say it should be tonight. No one could fail to enjoy Christmas dinner at Hogwarts. It was Hermione's first, and even her feelings of impending doom couldn't ruin the pure joy and goodwill dancing in the air. The Great Hall looked magnificent. Not only were there a dozen frost-covered Christmas trees and thick streamers of holly and mistletoe crisscrossing the ceiling, but enchanted snow was falling, warm and dry, from the ceiling. Dumbledore led them in a few of his favorite carols, Hagrid booming more and more loudly with every goblet of eggnog he consumed. Percy, who hadn't noticed that Fred had bewitched his prefect badge so that it now read Pinhead, kept asking them all what they were sniggering at. As the hours progressed, and as Draco Malfoy got more and more obnoxious talking about all of his expensive gifts, the magic of the days started to fade. Hermione was once again obsessing about their upcoming plan. The hairs she had compulsively picked off her jumper after her fight with Millicent were what Hermione was going to use to transform into the Slytherin bully. Hermione shuddered at the thought, but it was the only way. Millicent had gone home for the holidays, so there would be no chance of her running into her doppelganger. It would be a bit more difficult for Ron and Harry. After a considerable amount of planning, she finally had an idea. She rushed off to prepare before rounding up the boys. Harry and Ron had barely finished their third helpings of Christmas pudding when Hermione ushered them out of the hall to finalize their plans for the evening. We still need a bit of the people you're changing into, said Hermione matter-of-factly, as though she was sending them to the supermarket for laundry detergent. And obviously, it would be best if you can get something of Crabbe and Goyle's. They're Malfoy's best friends. He'll tell them anything. And we also need to make sure the real Crabbe and Goyle can burst in on us while we're interrogating him. I've got it all worked out. She went on smoothly, ignoring Harry and Ron's stunned faces. She held up two plump chocolate cakes. I filled these with a simple slipping draught. All you have to do is make sure Crabbe and Goyle find them. You know how greedy they are. They're bound to eat them. Once they're asleep, pull out a few of their hairs and hide them in a broom closet. Harry and Ron looked incredulously at each other. Hermione, I don't think... Oh, that could go seriously wrong. But Hermione had a steely glint in her eye, not unlike the one Professor McGonagall sometimes had. potion will be useless without Crab's and Goyle's hair, she said sternly. You do want to investigate Malfoy, don't you? Oh, all right, said Harry. But what about you? Whose hair are you ripping out? I've already got mine, said Hermione brightly, pulling a tiny bottle out of her pocket and showing them the single hair inside it. Remember Millicent Bulstrode wrestling with me at the dueling club? She left this on my rose when she was trying to strangle me. And she's gone home for Christmas, so I'll just have to tell the Slytherins I've decided to come back. Hermione ignored the incredulous look Ron and Harry were giving her and rushed off to check the Polyjuice Potion one more time. She was ready. It was time. She just hoped Ron and Harry could follow her simple instructions. Now that it was ready for the essence of the people they'd be turning into, the Polyjuice Potion was producing a heavy ink-black smoke that made Hermione's eyes water. Finally, she heard the squeak of the door. Hermione? Hermione emerged from the stall, shiny-faced and looking anxious. Behind her was the gloop sound of the bubbling glutinous potion. 3 glass tumblers stood ready on the toilet seat. Did you get them? Hermione asked breathlessly. Harry showed her Goyle's hair. Hermione breathed a sigh of relief. Good. And I sneaked these spare robes out of the laundry, Hermione said, holding up a small stack. She knew Ron and Harry didn't have the capacity for planning anything and took it upon herself to get new robes for them. You'll need bigger sizes once you're Crabbe and Goyle. 3 of them stared into the cauldron. Close up, the potion looked like thick, dark mud, bubbling sluggishly. Now that it was time to take the potion, Hermione started to doubt herself. She scanned the instructions one more time. I'm sure I've done everything right, said Hermione nervously, rereading the splashed page of most potency potions. It looks like the book says it should. It looks like the book says it should. So when we drunk it, we'll have exactly an hour before we change back into ourselves. So now what? Ron whispered. We separate it into 3 glasses and add the hairs. Hermione ladled large dollops of the potion into each of the glasses. Then, her hand trembling, she shook Millicent Bulstrode's hair out of the bottle into the first glass. The potion hissed loudly like a boiling kettle and frothed mattily. A second later, it had turned a sick sort of yellow. Ugh, essence of Millicent Bulstrode, said Ron, eyeing it with loathing. Bet it is disgusting. Not yours then, said Hermione. Harry dropped Goyle's hair into the middle glass, and Ron put Crabbe's into the last one. Both glasses hissed and frothed. Goyle's turned into khaki color of a boger. Crabbe's a dark, murky brown. Hermione tried not to think of the significance of the colors, or if they had any correlation to the taste. Hang on, said Harry, as Ron and Hermione reached for the glasses. We'd better not drink them in here. Once we turn into Crabbe and Goyle, we won't fit, and Millicent Bulstrode's no pixie. Good thinking, said Ron, unlocking the door. We'll take separate stalls. Harry and Ron went into stalls on either side of Hermione's. Her heart started pounding. She was sure they could hear it. Ready? Harry called. Ready, said Ron and Hermione. 1, 2, 3, came Harry's voice. Hermione pinched her nose and took 3 large gulps before she could think too much about it. It tasted like overcooked cabbage. Immediately, Hermione's insides started writhing, as though she just swallowed live snakes. Doubled up, she wondered whether she was going to be sick. Then a burning sensation spread rapidly from her stomach to the very ends of her fingers and toes. Next, bringing her gasping to all fours, came a horrible melting feeling as the skin all over her body bubbled like hot wax. And before her eyes, her hands began to distort. The fingers thickened, the nails pointed, the knuckles were bulging like bolts. Then the fur started growing everywhere. Her shoulders stretched painfully, and a prickling on her forehead told her that fur was creeping down toward her face as well. Every sound seemed amplified, and a heavy purring began in her chest. A sharp pain shot through her back right under the waist of her skirt, and she heard a rip. As suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. Hermione squeezed her eyes shut. As soon as she saw the fur creeping along her hands, Hermione knew things had gone terribly and dreadfully wrong. Are you okay? Goyle's low rasp of a voice echoed over the bathroom from Harry's stall. Yeah, came the deep grunt of Crabbe's from Ron's. Hermione heard the stall doors unlatch and the sound of their socked feet padding out of their stalls. The sounds were intense, almost like she had supersonic hearing. She could hear the rustle of their robes, their breathing, their blinking. Ron's door opened. They stared at each other, except that he looked pale and shocked. This is unbelievable, said Ron in Crabbe's voice. Unbelievable. We'd better get going, said Harry. We still got to find out where the Slytherin common room is. I only hope we can find someone to follow. You don't know how bizarre it is to see Goyle thinking, Ron said directly outside of Hermione's door. She heard his arm raise and the sound of banging on her stall door. Come on, we need to go. Hermione finally opened her eyes and her worst fear was confirmed. She stammered an answer. I don't think I'm going to come after all. You go on with me. Hermione, we know Millicent Bulstrode's ugly. No one's going to know it's you, Ron replied. No, really, I don't think I'll come. You two hurry up, you're wasting time, she stuttered, reaching behind her and finding a tail. That looks more like Goyle, said Ron, presumably about a look Harry must have given at Hermione's answer. That's how he looks every time a teacher asks him a question. Hermione, are you okay? Said Harry through the door. She wanted to tell them, but they only had an hour. They had to go. She'd deal with it herself. Fine, I'm fine. Go on. Her hands, paws, drifted up to her head, two pointy ears. We'll meet you back here, all right? He said. Hermione nodded, even though he couldn't hear her. She listened as they left the lavatory and took a deep breath, gathering her courage to go out and look at herself in the mirror. She knew exactly what her carelessness had done, but needed to see it for herself. The 5 steps from the stall to the mirrors were the longest journey Hermione had ever embarked upon. She had her eyes shut the entire way. Finally, with a surge of bravery, Hermione opened her eyes. A strange, humanoid version of Millicent Bulstrode's cat stared back at her in the mirror. Her face was covered in black fur. Her eyes had turned yellow, and there were long, pointed ears poking through her hair. Her teeth were long, cat-like fangs. In her haste, Hermione hadn't carefully inspected the hairs she had removed from her jumper the day of the duel. Had she done so, she may have realized the hairs were feline. Oh my! Myrtle was suddenly floating right next to Hermione. You've messed up. Yeah, I know, Myrtle. Hermione snapped back. What are you going to do? Obviously, wait until I transform back, Hermione said. You didn't read ahead, did you? Myrtle snickered. You're not going to transform back. Hermione was trying not to lose her patience with the whiny ghost. What on earth do you mean? Come out with it. Well, moaning Myrtle sneered, have you read the end of the chapter on Polyjuice Potion? You know that it is not meant to be used to transform into animals. You'll never transform back now. Hermione gasped. Certainly, Myrtle was lying to be cruel. She flew back into the stall where the restricted book sat and ripped open its pages. And she read, The Polyjuice Potion, which is a complex and time-consuming concoction, is best left to highly skilled witches and wizards. It enables the consumer to assume the physical appearance of another person as long as they have first procured part of that individual's body to add to the brew. This may be anything: toenail clippings, dandruff, or worse, but it is most usual to use hair. The idea that a witch or wizard might make evil use of parts of the body is an ancient one and exists in the folklore and superstitions of many cultures. The effect of the potion is only temporary, and depending on how well it had been brewed, may last anything from between 10 minutes and 12 hours. You can change age, sex, and race by taking the Polyjuice Potion, but not species. Species transformation may result in permanent metamorphosis and should not be attempted. Hermione's wail rivaled one of Myrtle's best. She was going to be a cat for the rest of her life, all because she didn't read the fine print. Her mind started to spiral. Everyone would find out what they were up to. They'd realize Hermione had stolen the ingredients from Snape's storeroom to brew a potion second years had absolutely no business brewing. She'd be expelled, but wouldn't be able to go back home because she was a cat. She'd be forced to live her life underground and in hiding. The anxiety bubbled over, and Hermione crumpled into a ball next to the toilet. A peculiar thing happened, however. Just as Hermione started to launch fully into a panic attack, she felt a deep vibration within her chest. She seemed to be purring to self soothe, just as a cat would. The feeling was so remarkable. Hermione stopped thinking for a moment and just focused on the calming vibrations. Slowly, Hermione felt herself calming down, even to the point where she could think about her current feline state rationally. She reread the passage and realized once again she had neglected to continue reading. Should a species transformation occur, there is a very, very small chance a reversal can happen with proper intervention by someone much more skilled and of better judgment than the person who attempted to change species in the first place. While Hermione didn't appreciate the snarkiness, she was able to garner a sliver of hope. Perhaps all was not lost. With a few white lies, she'd be able to convince Madame Pomfrey to help her transform back into a girl. She didn't necessarily have to admit to brewing and taking the Polyjuice Potion. Maybe she could say she was testing out different transfiguration techniques since she had an interest in animagi. She'd get a stern talking to for sure, but it wouldn't nearly have the same repercussions as the dangerous potion. With that worry somewhat quieted, Hermione moved on to the most pressing, the return of Harry and Ron. She didn't want to see their faces when they saw her new look. She didn't want to have to admit to them that she had messed up. She didn't want to hear the jokes Ron would come up with. No amount of self soothing purring would help that anxiety and embarrassment. Well, it wasn't a complete waste of time, Ron panted, closing the bathroom door behind them. I know we still haven't found out who's doing the attacks, but I'm going to write to Dad tomorrow and tell him to check under Malfoy's drawing room. Ron hammered on the door of Hermione's stall. Hermione, come out! We've got loads to tell you. Go away! Hermione squeaked. Harry and Ron looked at each other. What's the matter? Said Ron. You must be back to normal by now. We are. But moaning Myrtle glided suddenly through the stall door. Harry had never seen her looking so happy. Oh, wait till you see, she said. It's awful. They heard the lock slide back and Hermione emerged, sobbing, her robes pulled up over her head. What's up? Said Ron uncertainly. Have you still got Millicent's nose or something? Hermione let her robes fall and Ron backed into the sink. It was a cat hair, she howled. Millicent Bulstrode must have a cat, and the potion isn't supposed to be used for animal transformations. Uh-oh, said Ron. You'll be teased something dreadful, said Myrtle happily. It's okay, Hermione, said Harry quickly. We'll take you up to the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey never asks too many questions. Absolutely not. I'll be expelled. Oh, come off it, Ron said. You're not going to be expelled. McGonagall loves you too much. Now that I think of it, you and McGonagall can go chase mice together now. Ronald! Hermione hissed loudly, taking a swipe at him with his paw. You scratched me! Ron yelled, stepping backwards. You're mental! Ron checked his face in the mirror for blood. You kind of deserved it, mate, Harry said with a chuckle. I'm not going, Hermione continued. You can't make me. Fine, Ron said, lowering his voice. You can hang out here with Miss Sunshine over there. He pointed at Myrtle. I'm sure you'll have loads of fun meowing and mooning together for the rest of time. Luckily for Ron, Myrtle didn't hear him. However, Hermione did hear him and shot him a look that made it clear she wasn't in the mood for any more of his jokes. So, what happened? Did the plan work? She asked, changing the subject. She needed to get her mind off of her current state. It took us forever to find the Slytherin common room, Harry started. And Percy caught us roaming around, but then Malfoy came, and we were able to follow him down into the dungeons. Guess what their password is? Ron said darkly. I don't know, Hermione said. What? Pure blood, Ron spat. Hermione's whole body shivered from her head to her tail. So we go in, Harry continued, and Malfoy says he wants to show us something funny and then hands us this. Harry pulled a newspaper clipping from the Daily Prophet and handed it to Hermione. She read, Inquiry at the Ministry of Magic. Arthur Weasley, head of the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office, was today fined 50 galleons for bewitching a Muggle car. Mr. Lucius Malfoy, a governor of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where the enchanted car crashed early this year, called today for Mr. Weasley's resignation. Weasley has brought the ministry into disrepute, Mr. Malfoy told our reporter. He is clearly unfit to draw up our laws, and his ridiculous Muggle Protection Act should be scrapped immediately. Mr. Weasley was unavailable for comment, although his wife told reporters to clear off or she'd set the family gaol on him. Oh no, Hermione exclaimed. I know, Ron hung his head. Almost gave us away, though. Malfoy was laughing so hard, and I just wanted to rip the kid's head off. But it got us on the subject of the heir of Slytherin, Harry said. Draco has no idea who he is. Do you believe him? Hermione asked. Yes, I do, Harry answered with a frown. Did he say anything else? Hermione asked. The chamber has been opened before, Harry said, his eyes wide. 50 years ago, a student died. Hermione gasped. Oh my goodness. She felt dizzy. Hermione, are you okay? Ron said, suddenly right next to her. The fur on the back of her neck stood on end. Come on, let's get you to the hospital wing. No, I'm fine. You're not fine, Ron insisted. For one thing, you're a cat. For another thing, you're shaking like a leaf. I just didn't expect to hear that, Hermione said. I'm fine. I don't believe you, Ron said. Maybe Ron's right, Harry said. You should really get to the hospital wing, Hermione. Madame Pomfrey will definitely be able to help. Fine, but tell me one thing. Who opened the chamber? Hermione asked. Malfoy didn't know, Harry said, but said whoever it was got expelled and probably sent to Azkaban, the wizard prison. Now, come on, let's go. As they started to walk towards the door, Moaning Myrtle sped them on their way with a hearty guffaw. Wait till everyone finds out you've got a tail,